On your screen is Congresswoman Barbara Lee, California, and she is the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. And welcome back to our table this morning on the Washington Journal. I've got a photograph of you from last night with the Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack. This is in this morning's Washington Times, and this, of course, is about what seems to be the political story of the week: the Shirley Sherrod firing and then extension of an offer to bring her back to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. You've had a little time to absorb all the events of this week. What's your thinking about what happened and what it means?
Well, what happened, I think, is an example of what happens when one runs with sound bites, distortions in some media, and how it can really nearly destroy a good person's life and service to our country. In this instance, the Congressional Black Caucus communicated to the Secretary of Agriculture that we thought that he made a hasty decision, that he should reconsider this, and that he should reinstate her. We met with the Secretary last night. It was a very candid meeting. He apologized, first of all, of course, to Ms. Sherrod, but also to the Congressional Black Caucus, to the country, for making such a hasty decision based on really sound bites and a clip of a film that really was unfortunate. It was outrageous what happened, because when you look at what Mrs. Sherrod has done with her life and the experiences that she has had in her life and what she has gone through, she's a wonderful woman who turned these very horrible experiences which many African Americans have experienced into an effort to try to make this country better. She is a woman who is a hero. She deserves a lot of credit for handling it the way she is handling it. It was just a disaster, and it was really very sad in how she was treated. And so we were pleased with the apology, because when one makes a mistake, one owes an apology to the affected party and others who were affected by this.
As you well know, often when public officials have accusations made against them, a typical response would be something like administrative leave until investigation and then a decision. In this case, there was a very quick decision to fire Ms. Sherrod. I guess I have a question for you on the Agriculture Secretary in particular. Do you feel comfortable with him continuing in a leadership position, having a demonstration of his leadership style in this case?
The Secretary of Agriculture understands the mistake he made, that it was a horrible mistake. His apology, if you saw that yesterday, was real. I think that he has really taken on the systemic issues in the Department of Agriculture. For example, the black farmers deserve justice. They've been waiting now for their settlement. We have land-grant colleges. We have historically black colleges and universities, which really have not achieved parity within the USDA. There's a lot of discrimination that has taken place historically, and this secretary is moving forward to try to rectify all of that, and it's a very difficult job. And so while he did the wrong thing initially, it was outrageous how this was handled. He looked at it. We communicated with him. I talked with him. Many members of the Congressional Black Caucus talked with him. He apologized. We accepted his apology, but we also told him in no uncertain terms that we want him to continue to work with us to try to make the Department of Agriculture the department that it should be, and make sure that the African American community, the black farmers, our land-grant colleges, our historically black colleges and universities achieve the justice and the parity that they deserve.
My other question is really on the larger state of the race relations and the dialogue about race in this nation. I can recite for you. I mean, the NAACP was involved in this, made a quick condemnation and then a retraction, as you well know. There's also the fracas between the NAACP and the Tea Party. There's the Black Panther situation going on in Philadelphia and the Justice Department. And in fact, on top of it, Boston Globe lead story is on the Professor Gates case. No charges. Authorities abruptly dropped criminal charges yesterday against noted Harvard scholar Henry Louis Gates, but for Gates and others it appeared to be a case of too little too late. All of that is a context for the question about what do you think about this dialogue in our country and the actuality of the state of race relations here right now?
We have to have a dialogue, a real dialogue on race, and it must be held within a context of civility. I think what's taking place in terms of the noise that's out there really prevents us from having a healthy honest and clear debate about race. We can no longer sweep race under the rug. This is not a post-racial era. We've come a long way, but because of our history and because of the legacies that we still have to deal with, we have to look at how to move forward. And in fact, we have to have a decent civil conversation. The Congressional Black Caucus started this last year. I think this provides us another opening to reduce the noise and to begin to talk about the tough issues, and these are very tough, about race. But when you look at, for example, how race plays into everything, when you look at the healthcare disparities, the injustices that the black farmers have had to deal with over so many years, when you look at the fact that in minority communities we see environmental degradation, pollution, incidences of lung cancer, prostate cancer, all kinds of diseases are disproportionately affecting African Americans and Latinos. When you look at the fact that our young people are unemployed, and we've been working on a bill, the Congressional Black Caucuses, to hire young people for the summer, you are looking at an unemployment rate of over 40-some% for African American and Latino young people, where the national average is probably 25 to 29%. So race is a factor in all of our lives. It's systemic and it's institutional, and one has to understand that while individual relations and individual interaction with some people may be fine, we still have to have this larger discourse about these huge economic inequalities that still exist disproportionately in the African American community.
Well, moving on to the economy and how it affects particularly African Americans, we just finished a 45-minute discussion with our audience about the state of the economy. Lots of people calling in with stories you hear, I'm sure, in your congressional office all the time. Yesterday, Ben Bernanke told the senators, and he'll repeat the message on the House side today, the economic outlook unusually uncertain. Here's some statistics to echo what you just said. The June unemployment rate is somewhere in the vicinity of 9% nationally, but actually 10% nationally. When you break that down racially, whites affected at about 8.6%, blacks double that at 15.4%. Now, you also mentioned how it particularly affects young people. Let's look at the unemployment figures for African American youth in this country. Black men aged 20 plus, 17.4%, black women 20 plus, 11%, but both sexes of African Americans in the 16 to 19 age, as you mentioned, 39.9% unemployment. Now, what really can be done in this tough economy for young people with lower skill levels looking for jobs?
In this economy, we could do quite a bit. First of all, young people need jobs now, not only to help develop their resume and develop the skills for their future work experience. They need jobs now to help pay the rent, help pay the mortgage, and put food on the table. That's why the Congressional Black Caucus has been working day and night to try to get a jobs bill, not only for the entire country, but also for young people, because they're such a critical part of this economy. We have worked with the President, and the President supports this effort. Our Speaker, Senator Reid, have been phenomenal in terms of helping us advocate for this, but the Senate, for some reason, will not pass the bills that these young people need. We started with $3 billion, $4 billion that would just begin to address this unemployment rate with young people. We were able to pare this down. Unfortunately, they would not declare this an emergency, which it is. So we have to pare this down to $1 billion, which will create 350 to 400,000 jobs.
What kinds of jobs? Public sector, private
These
sector?
Would create both public sector and private sector jobs. If you look at our local jurisdictions, the cities, nonprofits are ready to hire these young people. And in fact, we have growth industries where young people need to get this experience now, in the green industry, healthcare sectors, and infrastructure, in sectors that we're trying to create jobs for the future. But what has happened is the Senate has just held up all of our jobs bills. And the Congressional Black Caucus, we're not going to relent on this. Last week we communicated to the senators, especially those senators that have large numbers of minorities in their states with off-the-scale unemployment rates. We're asking the senators to please understand that their constituents too are hurting. They're desperate. They need jobs. Jobs help create consumer spending, which helps reduce the deficit. And so it's very mean-spirited, if you ask me, and it's quite frankly immoral and unethical to not create opportunities for people so that they can work. That's what we want everyone to do, is work. We have to put America back to work. That's how we reduce the deficit and move forward.
Phone lines on the screen, 20